Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to IAG Live, wherever you may happen to be in the world. It is a very special edition of IAG Live. We've got something very special for you today. But before we get to that, come on in, Oscar Guiaro from the studio. Oscar, how are you, mate?
I'm okay.
It's good, Oscar.
Yeah, don't know what's going on.
You look a bit frozen up there, Oscar.
Yeah.
There you go. You're back again. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties there with Oscar. His image is frozen up. So why don't we go straight to Ben, managing editor of IAG, Ben from Sydney. Come on in, Ben.
Hey, Andrew. How you going?
All right. What have you done to Oscar?
Yeah, Oscar's must be cold there. He's frozen solid.
Cold in Macau. It's not cold in Macau. It's cold where I am. I was in Boston last week. It was minus 20 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
Now that's cold.
Yeah.
How is it in Sydney?
Oh, good. That's a nice sort of 25 today. Not too bad. A little bit overcast. Quite decent.
Very good. Very good. Well, we've got a very special new addition to IAG Live this week. We've got a new segment. So let's bring in the new segment. Oscar, why don't you hit it? Yes, it's the IAG Power Seat. Yes. What do you think, Ben? Power Seat?
Yep. Brilliant, Andrew. I feel like I'm on a game show ready to go.
Well, our very special guest in the Power Seat this week is none other than Aussie Millions Tournament Director, Danny McDonagh. Come on in, Danny.
Hi, good morning. Morning, Andrew. Morning, Ben. Pleasure to be here.
How are you, Danny?
Very good. Very good. I must admit, I'm looking forward to returning to Crown.
Well, I think the first time I ever saw you must have been like maybe, I don't know, 25 years ago or something, down in the Crown Poker Room, down in the basement. Remember those days?
Yes, it would be 25 years ago. Okay, like there would be some of the Sunday tournaments guys who went on to be world champions, but playing a $50 tournament. I can remember yourself in tournaments. So yeah, time does fly. Unfortunately, it's probably longer than 25 years for some people.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't go on to become one of those champions. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's great to see you, Danny. Ben, questions for Danny?
Yeah, I mean, look, Danny, you played a big role in building the Aussie Millions up to what it is today. But, it's been almost 20 years since you were back at Crown, or certainly 16 or 17 years doing the Aussie Millions. I mean, how does it feel to be going back there this year?
It feels, in some ways it's kind of like it's a homecoming, as some people say, but it is such a long time. It doesn't feel like such a long time. It was 2008 was the last time I was like the head TD, so the first 6 of the Aussie Millions. I did come back for 3 years in a support role when it was part of the APBT, so from 2014 to 2016, but it's 10 years since I've seen the Aussie Millions in action.
Danny, I think it was 2003 might have been the first year that you were really involved in the Aussie Millions directly.
Correct.
Through your sort of memories of what the tournament was back then and what your vision was for growing it from that base.
Yeah, as a bit of a prelude to it, so 1997 poker started. 1998 we had the first Australasian Poker Championship that went over 5 years. There was a guy in about 2001, Jason Gray. He was one of the bigger poker players in Australia. He said to Bendigo, who was a big part of starting up the poker, how about we do a bigger buy-in tournament? So there was, I think it was a 5K Omaha in about 2001. In 2002, we shifted to January for the Australasian Poker Championship. And we had 66 players at $5,000. And at that time in Australia, it was a huge buy-in. They did a 9-way chop just to demonstrate that players weren't used to that type of money. So before the final table started, 1 year later, the Aussie Million started. We cracked the million, which was great. And then over 5 or 6 years, we went from 122 to 780. So it was just a huge increase. And initially, the European players were right behind it. The Hendon Mob, the real Hendon Mob, not the website, they were attending. Peter Costa, of course, he was the first champion. Europeans were the first people to really support it. And then the Americans got behind it. And just about anybody who was a name in poker played in the Aussie Millions in the ensuing years.
Tony, as you say, it went international, but it's a lot. Australia's a long way from anywhere. I mean, what was the lure? How did you sort of entice those international players to first give it a shot and come to Melbourne?
Certainly, the Melbourne being a livable city, the Crown complex itself, the tennis. It was paired so well with the tennis at that stage. They were big factors. Even like the Capella golf course. I played golf one day with Phil Ivey and Mike Sexton. I kept well out of it because they were betting a fair bit of money on each hole. But Crown really looked after the players. We had VIP hosts, but they were actually poker background. So that really made a difference too, I think, with hosts really understanding the needs of the players. Tush on the media side was great. So everybody really got behind it. VIP section or department of the casino. Once we had it for a couple of years, everybody was on board. And I think there was a huge team effort for the whole casino.
I think, Danny, one of the things that probably it's harder for you to say, but maybe easier for me to say, as a player who played in the Aussie Million was I noticed compared to other places, the dealers were better, the quality of the supervision was better. You felt very, very comfortable in that room. Everything worked. Sometimes you're in a poker tournament and you can just tell there's mayhem going on around you and it wasn't well organized. But that tournament always felt to me that both the main event of the Aussie Millions, the 10K event, and even the smaller events as well, you felt like a well-oiled machine. Everything just worked. Registration worked. The tournament started on time. Whenever there was a controversy or something, something at the tables or whatever, it was sorted out well. Maybe you could just explain a little bit about the training and sort of the culture of poker at Crown, because it's always felt, to me as a player, it's always felt one step above any other poker room in Australia and many of the others around the world.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good point. I think one of the things early on was we actually had permanent staff in the key positions. Initially on the list for the cash games, and then it was familiar faces running the tournaments, and even dealers. We would have what was known as casual employees, but they were, when it came to the tournament, they'd be available every day. So it was a real, unlike, I suppose, a lot of other venues around the world, a lot of the staff were virtually permanent. And that was a big assistance in, as you say, putting on such a huge event and at a high level.
Danny, two things sort of happened as well around about that time. Joe Hasham won the World Series of Poker main event, which sort of caused a bit of a boom for poker in Australia. And also this was the era of online poker, the real online poker boom, Poker Stars and Full Tilt. I'm sure you attended many very interesting parties that they used to hold back in the day as well, Danny.
Yes.
What sort of extent did they contribute to the growth of the Aussie Millions during that period as well?
Yeah, they were big. There was one other factor too, whole cards on TV. It started off with the English show, Late Night Poker, and it was basically a camera underneath a glass plate for each player. So that got people coming in and say, I want to play the game on TV. We did have Channel 10 had the World Poker Tour Season 1 showing on Saturday night, commercial TV. And we get young kids coming in, I want to play the game on TV. And then all of a sudden we were starting to push more Hold'em, cash games and tournaments, of course. And then the two factors that you've also mentioned, they were big parts. Joe Hasham went in, I can remember, to celebrate his win, we had a free-to-enter $25 re-entry tournament, and it had over 1,500 players down in the Las Vegas room. The queues were just massive. We gave away 3 packages to the World Series that year. So, he was a big sort of launch on top of the moneymaker story, as you say, with the online. The guy who spent $40 and he won the World Series 2 years earlier. So there was they were the 3 items that really set poker on its path and Hold'em on its path. Initially, Crown Poker Room was Manila, draw poker, 5-card start, and maybe a 4-8 Hold'em when we first started. And then to see what it is today is fantastic. And No Limit started to creep in into the cash games also because of what they saw on TV.
Of course, the Aussie Millions as well, Danny. I mean, the other 2 big tournaments that came into play, there was a $100,000 buy-in tournament and there was a $250,000 buy-in tournament, which always attracted a lot of interest, and the best players and billionaire businessmen from around the world would come and play those events. When did they sort of come? What was the idea around them? How did they come onto the schedule?
That's credit to Keith Sloan, actually, Bendigo. So his idea was the $100,000 tournament. So buying at that stage, nowhere around the world were they doing it. We did it as a single table challenge the first year. So it kind of made the seats are scarce, and it was a mixture of 2 or 3 American pros, a couple of rich Australians, a couple of people who backed into it, and that started it off. And then within a couple of years, you've got the 250,000, I don't know, 30, 40 entries, and the 100,000, 60, 70 entries. It was fabulous. And that together with the 25,000, which we still see today, it was a great combination on top of the 10,000, and another big reason for the players to come from all over the world.
Andrew, you didn't play in the 250K, I don't think, at any time.
Oh, I didn't. It was just a bit small change for me, the 250K. I was looking for something bigger. No, they were great, and our chairman David Stike won one of those, didn't he, or came second in one of those one year, David? I think he did very, very well for himself one year. Danny, you I think one factor, and I'm going to embarrass you here. I think pretty much universally, when I've talked to poker players around the world about the best tournament directors going around, your name's always in that conversation, sometimes even at the top of that list. And I've seen you in action a lot over the years, and been at the wrong end of a couple of decisions you've made sometimes, but they've probably been right. I mean, you really are I'm going to embarrass you and say you really are a very, very good tournament director. And I've noticed, I've never seen you lose your cool. I've seen you in some really interesting and unusual situations, and you've always seemed to come up with the right answer. And I think that's another credit to the Aussie Millions. It's great that they've got you back. I mean, perhaps you could just, for a bit of fun, tell us about 1 or 2 of the most sort of unusual things that you've seen at a poker table, or tricky situations you had to adjudicate, things like that. Is there anything that comes to mind immediately?
There is one, and thank you for the compliments also, Andrew. It was in Macau, and it would include your chairman, actually, not directly. So Carlos Chang, he won't mind me mentioning it.
Yep.
He jumped into a seat of a player who had thought he'd busted, but he hadn't. After a break, played a hand, played a pot, and won a pot. And then it became to our He'd already busted separately in the tournament, came to our attention what had happened. And David's in the background trying to give him support, saying, "Oh, no, he's okay, he's okay." So in the end, we kind of sorted out. The pot was what it was. That happened. I gave him a 1-year suspended sentence, just as kind of an embarrassment that I could bring up each time that I saw him in the future. And, Carlos, to his credit, is he's done other things in his life, but he still plays poker these days. That was certainly an interesting one. I can remember Dr. Wes, bless rest in peace his soul, getting into a huge argument with a player, and it was captured by Fox Sports. And Fox Sports was such a huge part of the development of the Aussie Millions. And then needing to come in and settle the argument between himself and I think an American player. So there's certainly been a few over the years, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, you've always handled yourself very well in those situations. What have you been up to the last few years, and how did it come about that you got involved in the Aussie Millions again? It's
an interesting path. So I left Crown 2007, came back for the 2008 just as a one-off event. Started as APPT tournament director. Was still based in Australia at that stage. Jeffrey Haas was the president of the APPT at that stage. We did our Macau event, the first ever poker tournament in Macau, and from there a permanent room started up, Poker Stars Macau. So I became based in Asia for that, had 8 years developing Poker Stars Live Macau, the APPT, and then also the Australia-New Zealand Poker Tour, which was great. So I got to come back to actually virtually every casino in Australia, including Crown. We got to Darwin, Canberra, across to Perth. So they were really good times. Queenstown, which was a huge favourite of the Australian players also. Fast forward 8 years, I left that, took a year off poker, 9 months off poker, ran into Angelica Hale. When I was talking about those VIP hosts, she was a VIP poker host early on with poker background at the Aussie Millions. And, look where that got her to, vice president of tour management for the World Poker Tour. So she encouraged me to join World Poker Tour to actually look to start an event in Macau. That never happened, but we managed to get a whole heap of events through 2017 to the middle of last year in Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, India, Taiwan, Philippines at one stage, Australia, of course, for the first time. So that took up the next 8 years. I did have a dual role at one stage. I had a year and a half back with Poker Stars as their exec TD leading up to the Poker Stars Players Championship in Bahamas. So that was a freeze out like the Aussie Millions. Great also to go along to a few EPTs and just, learn off what those guys are doing over there too. They're a very well-oiled machine, the European Poker Tour. That gets me through to last year, and with events kind of quieting down, Harold had kind of contacted me. So he'd been in Asia, and he's now the head of gaming here at Crown. A couple of years ago, I said, I can't at the moment. He asked me my interest about the Aussie Millions. I'm exclusive with World Poker Tour. But that had finished in June. And in October, I reached out to him. I said, I think it can work if you guys are interested. So in the background since then, it was interesting looking at the poker rules, which some of them were still written from the ones I wrote over 20 years ago. Going through those, going through the schedule they'd set and the structures, and just fine-tuning it. What I like is the schedule goes back to what it was in 2020, and I think it's a perfect relaunch for the Aussie Millions. And then part of my role, besides looking at all their terms and conditions, rules, and running the event, of course, is to then post-event, once we get the feedback of players, start looking to the future, to the next Aussie Millions. So that's about December, January. We've got us stuck into a lot of the back of house stuff, and then it got announced recently on Poker Media Australia.
Yeah, I guess, last one for me, and then it seems like Ben's got a question too, but last one for me. What can players expect from the Aussie Millions this year? I mean, there'll be two types of players. There'll be players who are familiar with what the Aussie Millions was like back in the up day before this 6 year sabbatical. And there'll also be people who've never played an Aussie Millions before in their life, won't know what to expect. What can they expect from the Aussie Millions 2026?
All right. One thing they can definitely expect is the satelliting through Crown, which again has been a huge success. That goes back to a trip I did to Foxwoods, the three phases. Back in America, I saw there's 3 stages. They had a 10K major annual event. We're talking back 20 years ago. And it really took off in Australia, the 3 phases. So there's going to be a lot of people that qualify, locals that qualify into the tournament, which is great. But there's been 18 times the Aussie Million's been run, and 7 of them have been Aussies. And a big part of that has been the players that have satellited through. And it's a freeze out. So that's what they can expect also. It's a 10K freeze out. If you're a 1 bullet guy and you satellite in, you're not going to be sitting next to a person who's going to be firing multiple bullets. So that hasn't changed. Looking at the structures, they're really, really good. There's been a couple of little lines I've added. Oh, this event may not finish today. So it's the structures are decent value. And because everything is for the trophy events is 1,500 and above, the actual admin fees are excellent. So players should realise if they see, I think it's 2,500 for 250 admin fee, that incorporates the staff fee. So with what the rates are in Asia Pacific at the moment, especially the 2.5Ks and above, they're actually superior to most of the competitors. So so that's a really good thing because, of course, players are always looking at every dollar when they're entering events. It's a good range. So some of the old events, the opening event, it's moved to 1,500. I think it was 1,100 or 1,000 years ago. So that's got the $1 million guarantee. That's definitely going to be popular. The deep freeze after the main event, great structure, and again another freeze out on the actual schedule. A couple of mixed games. There's an 8 game. There's a horse. 5K. There's 6 max PLOs. So there's a really good mix of events, and of course daily multiple opportunities to qualify to try and satellite into the main event. Crown's just started the milestone satellites, which were brought in by the Wynn Casino, Las Vegas. So I think they're going to be very well received also. And then I guess from what I bring it's just been when I left Crown in 2008, that's the only place that I worked at. And then I've had the benefit of seeing 3 WPT World Championships up close, the best POCRstars events in the world. So, and then what we personally developed, me and my team in Asia with POCRstars Macau. So bringing all back those learnings is hopefully going to take us up to the next stage, not only in the running of the event, but in what the future of the Aussie Millions is. So very happy to be joining Harold and Daniel also, Daniel Trubiano, who's one of the casino heads, but also ex-poker. So, and that's what you want when you're running Aussie Millions, people at the top that really like the poker. And Harold saw the Crown Poker in the very early days we went to Asia, and then he saw it explode in Asia too. So he's really got excitement in the potential for the Aussie Millions.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. A lot of variety of events and a lot of support from the top, as you say. I know Harold's all over it, so it's great that the larger Crown's organisation supporting the event as well. Ben?
Yeah, Danny, I mean, you've been travelling extensively through Asia. You were just in Cambodia for WPT there. What's your sense talking to international players about, you think quite a few are going to come to the Aussie Millions? Is that the sense you're getting?
It's looking good. So after your poker media post that I shared on Facebook, that's been the most busiest or popular post I've ever made. So that was a good indication of it. A lot of players personally at the event said, "See you there, Danny," or have reached out through the comments. It's looking really positive. especially within Asia, because it's grown so much since the last Aussie Millions in 2020. So I'd expect a really good contingent to come there. And then it was very well known, of course, in America and Europe beforehand. So looking forward to some return patronage from those players. So yeah, but looking positive, man.
Probably might be last question for you, Danny. It's probably a good way to finish. But I mean, what are you looking forward to most from this Aussie Millions this year?
I think it's going back, and a lot of these staff I haven't seen since 2008. So my trips to Australia have always been very brief. And then if they've been for poker tournaments in the last 10 years, they haven't been to Victoria. So seeing the staff, seeing some players that I'm sure are going to come up to me and think, oh my God, who's this guy? And but also just that personal motivation about coming back to the place that I was a big part of starting. I still really enjoy running tournaments. So I'm just like it was with the last Aussie Millions. I prefer to spend my day on my feet around running the tournaments with all the ones I do these days. So yeah, looking forward to getting back in the action and in such a familiar environment. And catching up with old friends that I haven't seen in so long too, like inside and outside of poker.
Absolutely.
Very good, Danny. Well, it's fantastic to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us. I mean, the three of us who've made a big triangle all around the world at the moment, so we're keeping the airwaves busy. It's good to chat with you, and it'll be fantastic to see you in Crown. April 24 to May 10. Have I got that right?
I think you've got it exactly right, yeah. And so, yeah, they're the dates. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity and with all the promotion you're doing towards the event. It all helps, that's for sure.
Oh, no worries. It's a pleasure. I mean, the Aussie Millions I've got many fond memories of the Aussie Millions. I'm sure Ben does as well. And as you say, it's one of the premier events. We were talking to Joe Hasham last week, and he was also saying that back in the day, it was one of the very few 10K events in the world. There were not many, and of course they're all over the place now. But it's got a fond memory for many people, the Aussie Millions, and
that's right.
Particularly the Crown Poker Room. So it's going to be fantastic to see it up again, and we hope it continues for many more years.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks for Danny. Thanks for being on the show, Danny.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks very much, Ben. Okay.
We'll see you in Melbourne.
Yes, look forward to it. Bye.
And that was Danny McDonagh, Tournament Director of the Aussie Millions, as he was many years ago. It's great to see him back. It's good to see Danny, isn't it, Ben?
It is, and I think, I mentioned to you previously, Andrew, that the Australian poker scene it's been booming post-COVID, but it's never felt quite complete without the Aussie Millions. So to bring that back and to bring Danny back, who is, of course, there's no doubt he is the most notable tournament director in Asia Pacific for sure, but one of the most notable around the world as well. So I think having Danny there, it sort of speaks to a very successful, very high profile event.
Yeah, Crown's on a winner there. That's really good that they brought Danny back and made the effort to get him, because he really is synonymous with the Melbourne poker scene, the Melbourne poker room, and all those decades ago, I remember seeing him there. He was an absolute fixture. And what I said before is true. I've seen a few other tournament directors flailing in different positions where things have gone awry on the table. But if Danny's running a tournament, you're always confident that the right decision will be made in any particular circumstance. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a wrong decision made in a tournament that Danny's run. It's always been very, very consistent. So, and if a decision has to go up to, if it gets escalated all the way up to him and he walks over to the table, you're confident that the right decision is going to be made. So you can just get on with playing your poker. Don't have to worry about there's some crazy things going to happen on a table that go, something goes against you. You have the confidence when he's tournament director that's not going to happen. So that's very good.
And I think more broadly speaking, Crown is putting everything behind the Aussie Millions this year. There's no doubt about that. You and I speak to Harold and Dan every week pretty much quite regularly, and they're pretty much they've crossed every T, dotted every I. They're leaving no stone unturned in making sure the Aussie Millions is pretty spectacular this year.
Well, as IAG's reported over the past what 7 or 8 years now, Crown's and all the casinos in Australia have had their difficulties, but Crown's been the first one to sort of get over those and start looking forward into a new era where they're profitable now and things has really sort of settled down, and we can get back talking about having fun in casino and enjoying yourself at the property. And now that the Aussie Millions back, to me, that's a really good sign that things are going well. That they're investing in the Aussie Millions and bringing that back. It's a sign that Crown's back, and I think that they started getting back maybe about 18 months ago. It started to feel like they were back. They got all their licenses back from the various governments around Australia, and obviously Melbourne's their flagship. That's back. They've got a positive relationship with the regulator now. Things are going well. When you walk in the property, it's got a bit of a buzz again. And now with the Aussie Millions, well, that's just icing on the cake. You really know that they really are heading back in the right direction with the Aussie Millions. I can't wait to see it, and I just hope it grows from year to year. And I know that you're seeing a lot of activity around that. What do you think in terms of numbers? What do you think they'll get? It's an interesting to speculate, isn't it?
That's a very tough question. Look, I think pretty much everybody who's anybody in Australia will 100% attend this year. I just think
I agree.
They've been waiting for it, and I think the game has grown in Australia significantly, even in the past 3 or 4 years. There's and helped by. I won't go into the details of the Australian poker scene, but there's a thriving mid-tier scene that sort of you go from your pub players. In Australia, a lot of pubs hold very small $5, $10, $20 games. Then these mid-tiers came along, and that sort of fed another player that sort of made the step to the mid-tiers, and now they're making the step up to the casino level, which is sort of your top tier of poker tournaments. And so I think you're going to see all of those players try their hand at the Aussie Millions, whether it's the main event or just some of the side events. I think everybody will want to be there and be part of it. So I think I don't want to guess an absolute number, but I think it's going to be very, very strong and comparable to previous years.
Yeah, I'll have a stab. I think it'll be it's certainly going to be hundreds. Obviously, there'll be. I can't even remember what was their last. 400, 500, something like that. I think it's going to be somewhere around there, maybe, or even maybe a touch more. Can you remember what it was, the last main event?
So I probably should have checked that. We've been in the 700s before, possibly even around the 800 mark, perhaps.
Yeah. At the absolute peak. I think for 400, 500, or maybe 6. If they could get something like that, I think any of those numbers would be a win, because it's the first one back in 6 years. In 6 years, it's got to get established again. They got to ramp up, and for sure, in next year, in 2027, they'll get more than they got this year. I'm sure of that. So it'd be interesting to see.
Set the over under at about 550.
Yeah, 550 maybe. Yeah, 550 might be an over-under. Let's see as we get closer. It also depends on how many satellites they run, right? They'll be running lots and lots of satellites, I'm sure. So,
yep. And also they run satellites through the Australian Poker Tour, running some satellites as well on behalf of Crown. So there's activity around just feeding players in.
What a shame we don't have poker online in Australia.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a whole other subject. We won't do that one today. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, that's an interesting little bit of a different IAG Live. Look, we do have a few stories from the week. Not many, because we knew we were going to be chatting to Danny, but we have got a few to get through. So, Oscar, perhaps you could just put the first one of them up. I think we've got about half a dozen of important stories during the week that we wanted to draw attention to. What do we got, Oscar?
Here we go. The Philippines.
Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah. Well, I've got a black square. Can you see that, Ben?
I can. Yeah. So look, first story is about positive signs for the Philippine tourism as Manila's main airport welcomes record international passenger traffic. So that was through January. So we've spoken a lot, Andrew, about the fact that the Philippines had a pretty tough year for tourism last year, particularly from two of its key markets, South Korea and China. The early signs for 2026 are a little bit more positive. I know there's been a fair bit of effort put in by the government. There's the 14-day e-visas for Chinese tourists. Yep. So the early signs for passenger traffic from Manila's main airport there Ninoy Aquino International Airport have been very strong, record passenger traffic through January.
Yeah, I thought we'd talk about this story because it's a great start for the Philippines, because there was a lot of doom and gloom in the Philippines last year around reduced revenue. Of course, what happens in the industry, we've seen it a million times before over the last 3 decades, is you have a big run and everything goes really well and it's plus 10, plus 20%, and then that becomes the normal. And then the next year when it comes back to the line a little bit, it's all gloom and doom. What happened? Well, it's still better than it was the year before. People forget quickly. So, it's good to see the Philippines. So there was a bit of feel of that last year in the Philippines, and then some people were saying, "Oh, the Philippines is over." Well, no, not at all. I'm sure it's going to do very, very well, and we've got new properties opening there, and we've got a very positive regulator there. And I think things are going to be fine. But it was good to see the numbers going up a little bit. And as you say, they've done this 14-day visa-free travel for Chinese now, so that might make a big difference. So good to see some positive early signs for early 2026 for Philippine tourism. They might have a little bit more VIP play than they have had in previous, they had last year, let's say. All right, let's go on to the next one, Oscar. What do we got? Yes, this is a big story at the moment.
Yeah, this is particularly from the industry, the B2B suppliers, looking at the industry in the Philippines. There's a lot happening for them at the moment. This is obviously our good friend Tonette at Arden put together a bit of another analysis piece. She writes some very interesting analysis pieces of the regulatory framework in the Philippines. So PAGCOR released a couple of memos last year outlining what they were doing in this space, which is essentially ensuring that all of their suppliers to the industry need to be accredited and licensed. So they've outlined what needs to be done. They've put in a process. They released a memo a couple of weeks ago now that put timelines and deadlines around all of this, so that laid out the structure in a bit more detail. So what we've got are a couple of key deadlines looming now, very, very close. The big one being 31st of March of this year, when basically anybody supplying to from a B2B side to the online industry in the Philippines, be they games creators, platform providers, aggregators, whoever it might be, need to be accredited and licensed by PAGCOR, or they risk being ordered to be removed. So we broke down the fact that any company that's thinking it won't really be regulated that toughly, it won't be, maybe PAGCOR sort of let us sort of slip through the cracks here, or if they're just taking a wait and see approach, that's a huge risk, because all indications are that PAGCOR will be right onto this as of 1st of April 2026.
Yeah, look, I'm going to give a bit of my take on this. As we know, the pogos were banned in the Philippines January 1 of last year, and at the State of the Nation address last year, there was a lot of rumours going around that they were going to ban the PGO industry, or the e-games industry, or just iGaming in Philippines, whatever you want to call it. And that would have, the banning of the pogos hurt PAGCOR's revenue and the GGR. Not only the online, but also hurt the bricks and mortar gaming revenue as well, because a lot of those guys were playing in casinos and then they left the Philippines and then that action was gone. And it was a close run thing. It was nearly banned. And I think that was very scary to PAGCOR. And I think what the chairman's done here is he's gone, right, there's so much sort of negativity around this industry. We need to clean it up. We need to get it right. We need to make it professional. And you can see that all of the moves that he's put in place since around, I guess it was August last year to date, he's just doing thing after thing after thing. They banned the outdoor advertising. They banned advertising in peak hours in prime time. And they're talking about banning TV and radio advertising completely, and they've done a whole range of other things. The linking, we've reported on all these things. The linking from e-wallets to the sites, the gaming sites, that link has been broken. And so I think Chairman Tango, who's very, very pro industry and wants the industry to thrive, realizes that if they didn't clean that industry up quick, smart, then it could go by the wayside. And to his credit, he is doing that. And he's doing that quite forcefully. So I think this B2B accreditation is a really interesting approach. There The deadline for the operators to inform PAGCOR who all their suppliers were passed were yesterday, Asian time. So that was February the 12th. So all of the operators have to have informed PAGCOR as the suppliers that they're using, and PAGCOR is now going to go to those suppliers and say, get accredited, get with the program, pay your taxes, follow the regulations, do the rules. We don't want this industry to go the way of the pogo industry. So as you say, I think the companies that take a wait and see approach or think that it won't be enforced, I think they're making a grave error, because I think he realizes that PAGCOR has a very important role here in cleaning up the industry. And as you and I have always said, prohibition doesn't work. If you get rid of an industry, it just sends it underground, and then you'll have you're handing it to the criminals. I think Chairman Tingo knows that. He knows the answer is not to ban, but to regulate and clean up and put good rules in place, and that's what he's doing. So if you are working for a B2B supplier supplying the iGaming industry in the Philippines, get yourself accredited by March the 31st, because if you don't, I think you're going to be in a world of hurt. And it might be a very long time before you're allowed back to do business in the Philippines again. So I think this is a really interesting development.
Yep, absolutely, Andy.
All right, let's go. Let's do the next one, Oscar. What have we got? Oh, this one, you can do this one, Ben. You see, this is what happens when you have prohibition. No casinos in Indonesia. What happens?
Exactly. I was in Bali for a wedding in September. So
are you one of these guys?
Yeah, I was one of the Indian nationals that was arrested. Staying very close to where that picture is, actually.
They were Indian nationals, were they, Ben? I didn't follow this story, so I don't know. They were Indian? Well, there you go. Another country where gambling's banned.
Exactly right. So this is just I think it's quite an interesting story that a group of Indian nationals were set up an illegal gambling operation. I think they set up shop, basically, literally in a shop for 6 months or 8 months or so. We're running illegal gambling. Of course, all gambling in Indonesia is completely banned. So tracked down, arrested, extradited, all of those things that happened.
It's almost a carbon copy of the Pattaya story from about, 9 months ago, 12 months ago?
These sorts of stories pop up almost daily, Andrew. Obviously, as you know, I sort of search through all sorts of newspapers, and I look everywhere just to see what's going on in the region. And you're always seeing people arrested for illegal gambling, and certainly in countries where gambling is banned, it's just a daily occurrence, just about. Yeah.
All right. Next one. Let's go, Oscar. Yeah, this is here's the other side of the coin, right? New Zealand taking a sensible approach and actually regulating it. It's really interesting what's going on in New Zealand. And in fact, your cover story from the February issue of IAG covers exactly this.
No, that's right. I mean, this was just sort of playing off that, really, is Entain, of course, who in Australia operate 2 online sports books, or 2 major ones, Ladbrokes and Neds. In New Zealand, they have their license for the TAB over in New Zealand. So they're the licensed sports betting and racing operator over there, betting operator over in New Zealand. And naturally, of course, they're going to be bidding for one of up to 15 licenses that will be offered later this year as that process develops. So no surprise, really. But, it's sort of good to see that these companies want to be part of a regulated market in New Zealand and see the big opportunity there. They mentioned Andrew Vuris, who became CEO of Entain Australia New Zealand in August last year, mentioned in it, New Zealand may not be the biggest market in the world for them, but it is growing pretty well. They've sort of cited pretty strong growth the past couple of years, and they're keen to be part of that moving forward. I guess the hope would be, obviously they have sports betting in Australia as well, and no doubt they would like some online casino in Australia one day as well.
Well, New Zealand is sort of I don't really think this expression is very politically correct anymore, but I'll say it anyway. Is a sort of first world, well-developed country. And if it turns around and makes a regulated online gaming market, it's a signal to the rest of Asia. And I think, as you know, in the IAG coverage area of Asia Pacific, which is all the 65 countries from the Middle East to the international date line, how many have got regulated online gaming? Well, there's a form of it in the Philippines, and now there's going to be a form of it in in New Zealand. And there's a little bit in other countries in some small ways, as in sports betting in Australia or online racing bets being able to be taken in Hong Kong and Japan and so forth. But it's nothing like Europe or even the States in the US, where there's a proper online industry, and that's what people want. So it's interesting to see New Zealand doing this. Entain's big company globally, big online gaming company globally, wanting a couple of licenses. And as you say, that's hopefully they get licenses in New Zealand, and then some of the other countries in the Asia Pacific region might look to what New Zealand's done as a bit of a model for liberalising the online gaming industry in their countries. So let's see how that plays out. And of course, this gets covered in Complete iGaming, our sister publication as well. So if anyone wants to know more about online gaming in the Asia Pacific region and in the Americas, go and check out completeigaming.com. All right, next one, Oscar. Yes, there we go. This was the big Senate hearing was yesterday, wasn't it? Or day before?
2 days ago. I mean, this sort of plays onto what you were talking about before, Andrew, with this whole, cleaning up the industry in the Philippines and what PAGCOR is trying to do here. Point I was going to make earlier, but I think now is the perfect time to make it, given the Senate hearing, is that even looking at what happened on Wednesday at the Senate hearing, I think the calls for a ban on the domestic e-games industry have really died down now. As you say, it wasn't really, I mean, the Senate hearings that took place last year around August, September, that really was a question. There was a push to ban the PGOs. That wasn't really the point of discussion the other day anymore. It's not really about ban. It's more about regulation. What can we do to protect people? So I think just that general shift on the tone of conversation is notable. And I think we saw that this week.
I heard it went very well. I heard from some people in the know that PAGCOR performed really, really well in the Senate hearing. And as you say, the general vibe was not about banning the industry, but about PAGCOR taking a bit of a victory lap, if anything, on the things that they've done in the past. It's not 12 months, but it's more like 7 or 8 months to try to make the industry much more palatable to Philippine society. And they've done quite well at that, and will continue and are continuing to do that. So they had a pretty good showing at the Senate hearing, and the anti-gambling voices had to kind of acknowledge that. All right, let's move on to the next one, Oscar. I think we've only got 1 or 2 left. Oh, this is interesting. Capella, I've been there and had a nice meal there with one of the Galaxy guys, and this is Galaxy's sort of uber high-end offering, isn't it, Ben?
It is. It's a sort of place I'd love to stay at, but I'm pretty sure I will never will. But just having a look at, I think it's around 96 or 98 suites.
98, I think it is. Yeah, just under 100 rooms, keys.
Yeah, and we're looking at, from 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, up to 4 bedroom, I believe, and all, extremely spectacular with butler service. And I think a number of them have private swimming pools are there. It's a pretty amazing offering. I think, this may be the best offering in Macau, quite likely. I mean, all of the operators are developing their premium, suites at the moment, but this is pretty spectacular what Galaxy have got here.
Well, they'll have a really good shot at winning the best hotel at the IR Awards, at the IAG Academy IR Awards in September, on September the 8th this year in Manila. One of the categories is the best hotel that is in an IR, and surely this would be right up there, Capella. Small number of rooms, but very, very exclusive. And this takes the number of hotels at Galaxy up to, about 10 now? A huge offering they've got. Wait till phase 4 opens. They'll have another 4 or 5. They'll be well into the teens. So there's an enormous offering. And their hotel room keys as well. I mean, this 100 doesn't count for anything, but they were always down in the low thousands, but they'll be pushing up towards, I think, 6, 7, 8,000. It's not the 12,000 that Sands has, but they'll be clearly number 2 as it expands. And it's great to see them having a wide range of offerings, from the more modest ones like Broadway and maybe arguably the Galaxy Hotel, even though that's still a 5-star hotel and very nice, all the way up to your Raffles, and now something even higher than Raffles in Capella. Pretty amazing property. I was lucky enough to have a drink in the in the bar there. Actually, the name's just slipped me. Unusual name. The name's just slipped me. But a drink with one of the Galaxy executives, and small but beautiful bar. Really, really nice place. Perhaps next time you're in Macau, Ben, we can go in and have one drink there.
Yeah, is that all IAG can afford?
It's the budget. We can have one round, and then we'll go down the pub down the road. Very good. All right, next one, Oscar. That might be. Oh, this Melco results. Yes, you just did this.
It did, yeah. Well, Melco and Win both released their results this morning, or Melco released overnight. Pretty good result for Melco, certainly up year on year. A few factors, sort of kept them a little bit subdued. But, Melco have shown throughout 2025 pretty strong growth overall. Actually, one of the interesting things to come from Melco's results release today wasn't about Macau so much, but about City of Dreams Manila, which they
Yes, I saw that. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, looking to sell their 50% stake, but they went through the strategic process of looking into that and opted, at least for now, not to pursue that sale. So they will still have Manila on their portfolio for a while.
So there's two ways to look at that. There's a bit of analysis on that. I mean, Melco through COVID did famously increase their debt considerably. They had quite a substantial debt. I don't know, but it may have even been the largest of all six, or second largest maybe of all six, but they certainly had a pretty high debt number. And, one of the arguments was that, well, let's sell City of Dreams Manila and try and get this debt down. We can pay off a lot of the debt. But now maybe the results are going quite well. They're actually doing pretty okay, Melco. I mean, they Kevin Benning there in Studio City, that place is pumping in a way that it didn't used to pump before, and there's some pretty good numbers here. I mean, they could still do yet better. They're not absolutely a sky high. I mean, it's not Sands kinds of results, but it's still pretty good. And I'm sure that they've paid down their quite a considerable amount of their debt, and maybe they've turned around and go, well, maybe we don't really need to sell City of Dreams Manila. Our interest in that, after all, we can get the debt down just through trading our way out of that situation. Of course, the more cynical people might say, well, they never really got anybody interested in in coming and buying their interest, and therefore they don't want to leave it on the market for too long. Like any asset, you don't leave it on the market for too long, because then it indicates that nobody's interested in it. So who knows? Maybe it's a bit of both. Who knows? But it's interesting that they will retain that asset. And in addition, so now they've got obviously City of Dreams and Studio City and Altira in Macau, and City of Dreams in Manila, and City of Dreams in Mediterranean and Cyprus, and also City of Dreams Sri Lanka as well. So they're expanding throughout the world. And I visited both Cyprus and Sri Lanka in January this year, so we'll have something to say about them a little bit later. So well done to Melco on some pretty good results.
I should just throw in, Andrew, I don't think we've got the Win results lined up to show, but they were really heavily affected by bad luck this quarter. I think their win percentage...
Win Macau.
Yeah, Win Macau. Well, both properties, of course, for Win Macau
as
well. So
Win Macau Limited, as in the company that has codes. It's always confusing. Win Macau can mean the property, as in Peninsula side, or it can mean the company, which means both sides, as opposed to Win Resorts.
So I went through the win percentage of both their VOP and mass at both properties, and across VOP and mass at Win Macau and VOP and mass at Win Palace, win percentage was down across all of them, and it was just one of those things that happened this quarter. So that sort of impacted Win's results. But they did mention that they have just got approval to open their Chairman's Club before Chinese New Year, which is a big thing for them coming up to next week. So that's their ultra-exclusive, most premium members-only gaming area. Tripled the size. They've sort of renovated it over the past 6 months, tripled the size, and that will be opening for business again just in time for Chinese New Year.
Did you have the Win results story up yet?
I did, yes.
Okay. I must have missed it when I went through. That's interesting that they've got that approval. Look, when you play bad one quarter, you often play quite well the next quarter, because if you play bad, that means the players did quite well. So if the players did quite well, they've got money to come back with, and they're feeling lucky about your property. so it can come back to the line next time. So, you know, hopefully win will that will balance up for them next quarter.
Yep, absolutely.
And that looks like that. Well, a couple of just before we go, it's been quite a long one because we had Danny, but which was great to have. But a couple of announcements. We announced, I believe, yesterday the MAD in Manila.
Yeah, actually, we announced a couple of hours ago, actually, Andrew, just very recent, that we'll be holding our first Manila After Dark of the year. Will be held at La Vie Resort and Casino. It's the home of New Coast Hotel, of course, which we write about quite regularly. So first time we've ever held a MAD there, Andrew, MAD 34. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, really interesting. I just saw the comments come up there. Great show, guys, from Henry Fonseca. Thanks, Henry, for watching. And some comments from Scott, who's always watching as well. Yes, La Vie, they have an integrated resort license, right? So this is the property that you've written a lot about it. This is the IEC property, right? So they this is the one in Malate. It's actually been around for a long time as a casino. But now that they have to spend $1 billion US on it, right, to upgrade it to keep the integrated resort license, and they're already spending money on it, and it looks quite magnificent, that area. We're going to have the MAD in on April the 14th with those 4 pillars with the LED all around, all the pillars all the way up. Looks very spectacular. So it'll be a new place for us to have a MAD at La Vie Resort and Casino, and a new integrated resort for Manila, right?
It's funny, Andrew, we were talking to Danny before, because the first time I ever went to Manila was in 2007 for APP.
I know what you're going to say.
It was held at that venue. I didn't realise that until recently. It sort of clicked.
It clicked that was the same place. Yeah. I was at that event too, actually. I don't think you and I knew each other very well back in 2007. I was at that event as well. Yeah. It was a totally different property back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it was still quite a decent casino. I remember playing a bit of blackjack and, just enjoying the surrounds. But yeah, I mean, really looking forward to having a MAD back at that property now.
Yes. Wow. So that'll be interesting. So April the 14th, and that's followed the next week, April the 21st, by our MAD event at Aurora at Altira, thanks to our friends at Melco.
Yep, absolutely.
So a couple of MADs coming up in April. And then, of course, don't forget the industry party on Wednesday, May the 13th. I don't know how I remember all these dates. Wednesday, May the 13th. And that is going to be once again at a very popular venue, same as last year and the year before, NGM Cotai at the Vista. Everyone loves that venue. And it's just a great, that's a great party. And the event of G2E Asia. And as we always say for that party, because it's always a lockout and there's always disappointed people, get your tickets early. You need a ticket with a 3-digit number on there. It's not just a general ticket like a MAD ticket. It's a serial numbered ticket. Tickets are assigned to each person, and you must secure one of those tickets on your phone with the number. And if you want to get one of those tickets, speak to a sponsor. They have an allocation of tickets. So get your tickets for the industry party on May 13th. You'll be there, Ben?
I will be, yeah. And we'll be announcing some of those sponsors very soon as well. So keep your eyes out. More news coming.
Don't forget to get your ticket, Ben.
Yeah, might not get in, Andrew.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for sticking with us on the show. It was great to speak to Danny McDonagh, and great also to speak to Joe Hasham. We interviewed Joe Hasham last week. And if you want to see that interview, just go to our YouTube channel, of course. And the video is there on the YouTube channel. Joe was in fine form. I assume you watched the chat I had with him, Ben?
I did, Andrew. Actually, I chatted to Joe, I think the week before that as well, caught up with him. So, and he was looking forward to talking to you. Yes, I did watch the interview, and I'm sure Joe's he's super excited about the Aussie Millions, as we all are. So he'll absolutely be there playing as much as he can.
100%. Well, he's an ambassador, right? So he will definitely be playing. And if anyone ever wanted to go and meet Joe Hasham, well, that's the way to do it. Go down to the Aussie Millions, April 24 to May the 10th. All right. Well, that's it for us. Have a great weekend, everyone. And we will see you next time on IAG Live. That's it out from me and from you too, Ben.
Yep. See you next week.
Okay, bye for now. See ya.